Hey guys, today I want to talk about silent quitting again. We've been on this subject for a while. We've mentioned it a few times. We've even done a video about it. And I want to talk about it today because Philstar, one of the Philippine newspapers, I guess it is, or one of the news agencies, I think it's a news agency, did an article on this, and it popped up on my Google. And they said something about a growth in silent quitting, actually. And it was quite a big amount of growth. It used to be like 23%. Now it's up to 60%, I believe it is, something like that. Anyway, whatever it was something that was really noticeable, because when you have 60% of your workforce silently quitting, and for you guys that don't know what silent quitting is, you're getting an amount of pay that is so little that you feel it's not even worth working for. And as you know, the Philippines, it pays very low. And I don't want to get too involved in the low pay or anything like that. I just want to put this out there that, you know, back in the United States, we also have silent quitting. And, you know, as you notice when you go into McDonald's or something, your order gets screwed up or they take their sweet time. There's a big line and they're like, I don't care if the line goes out the door. I'm going to take my time. And that's silent quitting. It's people that just don't care. They just don't give a damn about their work because the pay is so crappy. But it gets worse here. Here, you do something called a contract when you work. It's a 1-year contract, okay? And it usually takes 1 year to get into these up to 6 months to a year to get into a job usually, because they have you jump through so many hoops. They have you sit and wait, and then finally they decide, okay, we have this, somebody quit, so we'll call up this person, we'll have them come in. They got to go through medical exams and whatever else they need to do. But I've had people tell me it takes anywhere from 6 months to a year to get into one of these jobs. And then it's only a 1-year contract. So the people that get in there, because they're under a 1-year contract, by the time they're all trained and everything, you know, their contract is up, and what they do is they let them go and they take in somebody else because they don't want to give somebody else higher pay. So that's the problem. And a lot of these people during that year, they silent quit because they know at the end of the year they're just going to let them go. So it's like a cycle here in the Philippines that keeps on going on and on with some jobs, not all jobs. But here's the thing. Now, people that work in restaurants, what happens is they tend to, like, they get really small pay. And I'm not talking about American restaurants here. I'm talking about regular restaurants like McDonald's or maybe the local, small restaurant, street restaurant or whatever, or those places. They don't pay that much. Okay, they pay almost nothing to work for these people to work there. So the people just don't care, and they get small tips or whatever. So they just don't really care about their work ethics. Their work ethics are like, I don't care. I'm getting, whatever I get today, I get. But when you go into like a restaurant such as Chili's or some of these bigger restaurants, the people tend to tip more there because there's a lot more expats going in there, and they tip very well. So they treat you very well there, okay? I go into Chili's, I go into Texas Roadhouse at Mall of Asia and the one over at Evia all the time, and I tip them very, very well, and they always treat me very, very well there. So when you go in there, always tip them well because they usually treat you well there. One thing I've learned here is that, when you're here and you're getting good service, tip them. And don't just tip them 10%, tip them more if you feel, and if you feel you're getting really, really good service because they've deserved it. And I'm not telling you to over tip them. I'm telling you to tip them a decent amount. I'm not telling you to give them 50% or something like that. I'm telling you the usual tip from a Filipino is going to be a lot less than what you give them. I can assure you of that. I've seen the tips on the tables. I've watched tips on the tables. They're very tiny. It's a few pesos. Very small amount. And I'm not saying Filipinos are cheap tippers. It's just that they don't have the money. They just don't have the money to tip these people. They don't have the extra dollars. So they're trying to penny pinch. They're trying to save. It's the way of survival here. So it's nothing against the Filipinos, because it's just not. It's just part of the economic culture here that you have to tip low because you need to save your money to pay your electric bill or pay your rent or what have you, because your pay is so low. Even if you have a decent job over here, such as a doctor or something like that, some doctors don't make that much money, and they still, they're very frugal with their money because they've learned to live that way. An American comes over here and he's living off something like, 3,000 to 4,000 a month or more in some cases. You know, I'm not saying all Americans like that, but there's a lot of people, even if you're making 2,000, it's a lot of money over here. So tip these people, you know, give them a little tip. I say 10% is a decent tip, 15% is a decent tip. I think if you tip them 20%, I think you're over tipping, unless it's exceptional service and they're doing something for you and they went over and above for you, then I would say tip them more. Okay, but if it's just great service, you know, and you're just sitting there and it's for 2 people or something like that, tip them 15%. Tip them if you really think the service was phenomenal and there was a few of them waiting on you or something and it was the service was fast or whatever. Give them that 20% tip then if you feel like that's the way to go with them. But definitely look after these people. But it's interesting about this silent quitting because we talked about this. We've been talking about it now, I think, for about 6 months or longer. So it's funny that Philstar picked that up, and I thought it was quite interesting that all of a sudden they did, because in the Philippines, silent quitting was almost unheard of. And even when I mentioned it, people were saying, Steve, what's silent quitting? I don't get it. I don't understand what it is. Well, now you know what it is. Silent quitting is, like I said, it's when your pay is so low, you just don't feel like working because you're not going to get anywhere. You're probably not going to get a raise. You're in a dead-end job. But here it's much worse because if you're making $7 to $9 a day or $10 a day for working and you're putting in all your effort for that kind of money, is it really worth it? Probably not. You know, and I don't want to put down these people for silent quitting because I think it's kind of like they're standing up to the corporate world and saying, hey, we're not gonna put out our best effort if you're not going to put out your best effort and giving us good wages. Now, and it's the same way in the United States. It's the same way in Europe, who is also doing this silent quitting thing. But here in the Philippines, like I said, it's at 60% right now. And that's kind of scary because when I walk around the Philippines and I talk to people about how much they get paid, it's like 30 minutes worth of work in the United States, because in the United States, people there are getting $15 an hour at some McDonald's to work there. Some of them are getting that kind of pay. And over here, they're getting half that to work the whole day. Think about that for a second. Yet people back in the United States feel that they're more entitled than a Filipino. And I think that's kind of sad the way Americans think sometimes, because Americans get greedy. They got to have their phone. They got to have this. They got to have that. I mean, everybody in the world is not entitled to that. You have to work for it, you know? And I think in the United States, people feel like they have to have everything that everybody else has. And I think somewhat in the Philippines, people feel like that too, and they want to have their phone, they want to have the nice TV, but they understand that it's harder to get that. And with the wages that they get, they have to save or pool their money with these people, and then they can probably get something like that, you know? And that's the problem. But anyway, guys, I wanted to talk about that today. I'd like you guys to leave your comments, if you wish, about your thoughts on silent quitting. Do you think it's silent quitting? Because they took the poll, and it's 60%, which is kind of interesting. But I think 60% might be low. That's my thoughts. I think it might be as high as 80% in the Philippines in some places. In some places I go and I get phenomenal service and everything. And I think it depends on who you are, too. If they know that they might get a tip, they're going to take care of you better. But anyway, guys, God bless. Take care. I hope you enjoyed today's show.